Good evening, folks. Ken Hovind here in the crew at Dinosaur Adventureland, Lenox, Alabama, July the 11th, 2023. Tonight we need to sing happy birthday to Bobby. Joe, our tech guy, his wife is getting older. And one friend of mine told me when his wife turned 40, he was going to trade her in for 220s. I said, don't do that, man. You won't be wired for 220. Okay. Anyway, so let's sing happy birthday, the Dinosaur Adventureland birthday song to Bobby, our tour guide of the Science Center. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is your birthday song. It isn't very long. Happy birthday, Bobby. What a blessing you've been around here. Amen. All right. Tonight, we're going to go do more about the age of the earth. We've covered quite a few things so far here. We've talked about the Bible dates clearly add up to about 6,000 years for the age of the earth. The stalactite growth does not indicate billions of years. The magnetic field of the earth, the moon is leaving the earth, it's receding. You can't be more than maybe 1 billion years old. Certainly not 4.6 billion like they say. The human population of the earth is growing. Could have all come in 4,500 years like the Bible says. The ice cores, we talked about all that stuff before. Get our previous broadcast. We're the folks who believe God should get the glory for his creation. We're on Rumble, Kent Hovind Official, on YouTube, Genesis Baptist Church, and Doc Dino. Am I supposed to be watching that one too for comments, brother? I don't ever watch. I got all I can handle with just Genesis Baptist. I got more than I can handle. Okay, let's see. We're on Odyssey, whole bunch of channels on. Go to drdino.com, our website. Now call us 855-BIG-DINO, extension 4 if you want to talk to our tech guy. If you have any questions. Extension 1. Bobby, what extension are you? 0? D? 5. If you want housing, if you're going to come visit, stay overnight, go to extension 5 for Dwayna. And you don't have a phone? Okay. But if people want to come, if they want to make a donation, I guess they go to extension 1. I'm 3, but don't go to me. I don't know about okay, never mind. Okay. Here we are, July. I forgot to move it. It's the 11th. Move that down in your mind, okay? We believe the whole scripture, everything is inspired of God. God wrote the book through different men, and it's flawless, inspired of God. We're supposed to be ready to give an answer. So when I do my seminars on creation, like my seminar series, 18 hours, I want to strengthen your faith in God's word. We believe the Bible's true from cover to cover. Even the cover on mine says, Kent Hovind. I believe that, okay? And we want to, if you're not saved, try to get you converted, or at least make you think about your faith in evolution. And number 3, if you're saved but not doing much for the Lord, we're going to try to make you uncomfortable. Okay, if you want to help us stay open for free, join our 777 Club. See, I like what they're doing. I'm going to help give $1 a day. Give up 1 coffee. Oh, forget it. Coffee's what, $3 a cup now or something? I use 1 cup of coffee, lasts me all day. I use half honey, half cream, half sugar, and half coffee. And it gets crowded in the cup. But go all day that way. And I think I just now finished mine a few minutes ago. So anyway, give up 1 cup a day and help us out. Stay open for free. Go to drdino.com if you want to make any donations there. There's a donate page, or to join the 777 Club. Still no super chats on YouTube, huh? But there is a link. On the homepage. When you're watching this YouTube, there'll be a button up there on the homepage? Yep. Okay. Click there if you want to donate. Make sure it goes there. We had one of our tech guys run off with a bunch of the donations. Okay. Let's see. Make any donations to CSE. That's Creation Science Evangelist. Sorry for my throat. I've been talking today. I gave a tour in the rain, which is no problem, except the Jeep has no roof and no windows. That's a problem. Okay. Get our seminar series. Come visit us at Dinosaur Adventureland, straight north of Pensacola. And it's a great place to bring your youth group, bring a Awana group, bring your Boy Scout group. It's a lot of fun around here. I'm a little prejudiced, but I think it's awesome. Okay. A lot of fishing. If you come stay overnight, I'm going to let you go fishing, one of our lakes. The Bible teaches us a lot very clearly about the age of the earth. If you add up the dates in the Bible, it comes to about 6,000 years ago. You can make these charts, which we sell in our bookstore. Adam was 130 when his son was born, and that boy was 105 when his boy was born. I mean, you can add up the dates in Genesis 5. Anybody can do it. And I like math and science, so I made the chart. Anyway, before the flood came, the people lived to be 900. This is the age of giant, lots of stuff, giant reptiles. They never stop growing. That's the age of dinosaurs, not millions of years ago. After the flood, you go to Genesis 11, and it gives you a bunch more dates of people's names, clear down to Joseph. And you see people's lifespans dropping off. And today, hardly anybody makes it to 100. But they add up Many people have done this, and the Bible dates add up to about 4000 BC. So I want to go to 12, 1, 2, 2, 3, enter. Okay, tonight we're going to talk about the salt in the oceans. How many have ever been to either the Atlantic or the Pacific Ocean? Have you noticed it is salty water? Oh yeah, okay. How'd that salt get there? And since more salt is washing in, how long would it take for the oceans to get to 3.6% salt where they are right now? How long would that take? If the oceans were millions of years old, collecting all the salt and evaporating it out, would they be saltier, like the Dead Sea or the Great Salt Lake? Well, the oceans could have gone from totally fresh water at the time of Noah's flood to 3.6% in less than 5,000 years. I'll show you tonight. Origin of Earth's oceans. Outgassed water vapor fell as rain. Typical propaganda in a textbook. Yes, boys and girls, the moisture came out and the gases came out and it rained back down on the earth. Okay, I agree, okay? The first permanent oceans formed 4 billion years ago. I disagree, okay? Salinity, the saltiness, developed from dissolved rock elements. I agree. Early acidic rain dissolved more crustal minerals than today. What are they saying here? It used to be getting salty even faster, which is going to make the problem worse for them. Okay, but that's all right. Why is the ocean salty? U.S. Geological Service. Let's see. You may know that the oceans cover 70% of our surface and 97% of all the water on the earth is saline, salt water. That's a lot of salty water. By some estimates, if the salt in the ocean could be removed and spread evenly over the Earth's land surface, it would form a layer more than 500 feet thick. The height of a 40-story building. Where'd all the salt come from? If you get into folk stories and mythology, you will see that almost every culture has a story explaining how the oceans became salty. Wait. Why would that be? See, after people got off the ark, you're down to one family, Noah, his 3 boys, and all the 4 women. They would spread all, and as they spread around the world, they would spread all kinds, they would remember the stories. I think during the flood in Noah's ark, Noah's in the ark and his family, you didn't eat, it was all fresh water. Drop a bucket over and pull up a bucket of water. Better yet, I believe, I cover this on video number 7, how did they get water on the ark? I think the ark had what's called a moon pool. A moon pool, let me get a boat here. Let's see, this will be my boat. Okay, pretend that's my boat. If you have a hole in the bottom of your boat with a pipe on the inside, sticking way up inside the boat, every time you go over a wave, the water goes up and down in that pipe. Now, if it's all fresh water, every time he goes over a wave, it pumps fresh water in to refill his tanks. Noah didn't have to draw water for the animals. I think every time you hit a wave, it refilled the tanks themselves. Just by virtue of the fact it's going with moon. There'll be several moon pools. I don't know. We got pictures or drawings anyway on our seminar part 7 about the Noah's Ark, all that stuff. Okay, let's see. So I believe the ocean was all fresh water at the time of the flood, and it's gradually gotten saltier since then. The 2 ions that are, this is from U.S. Geological Survey, that are present most often in seawater are chlorine, chloride, and sodium chloride, table salt. These 2 make up over 90% of all the dissolved ions in seawater. By the way, the concentration of salt in seawater, called the salinity, is 35 parts per thousand or 3.5%. If the weight of seawater comes from the dissolved salts, a cubic mile of seawater, the weight of the salt as sodium chloride would be 120 million tons per cubic mile. How many cubic miles of ocean are there? Whole bunch. That's a lot of salt. 120 million tons per cubic mile. Okay? See, it rains, washes mineral salts into the ground, into the ocean. Evaporation takes it out. An estimated 225 million tons of dissolved solids, a large part of which is mineral salt, is discharged into seas by streams and rivers from the United States alone. However, this alone does not explain why the seas are salty, why the oceans and not rivers and streams especially, since they carry dissolved salts. They can only be answered by a process known as evaporation. Okay? The evaporation takes out the water, leaves the salts behind. So follow this now. It's constantly raining someplace in the world, and the rivers are constantly running, and they're bringing mineral salts into the ocean, and evaporation is taking only the water out. Well, what's that going to do? It's going to leave the salt behind, and very slowly the oceans get saltier every day. From precipitation to the land, to the rivers, to the sea. The rain physically erodes rocks, and the acids chemically break down the rocks and carry salts and minerals along with dissolved state as ions. Ions in the runoff are carried to the streams and rivers and then to the ocean. I don't think anybody disagrees with this. The rain makes the rivers, and a little bit of acid in the rain dissolves minerals out of the rocks, brings it into the ocean. Evaporation takes it out. Google it. It's hundreds of websites on this topic. There's no mystery how the oceans gain salt. Gain it every day. Okay? What is salinity in water? Okay. The oceans gain salt due to the release of mineral salts and ions from rainwater, which is slightly acidic from carbon dioxide in the air. Rocks on land are the major source of salts dissolved in seawater. Rainwater that falls on land erodes rocks, releasing ions that are carried away to streams and rivers that eventually feed into the ocean. Some of the dissolved ions are used by organisms in the ocean. The animals eat it, and are removed from the water. Well, no, slow down. USGS. If an animal drinks some of the water or eats some of the stuff and gets salt in his body, then he dies in the water. Guess what? It didn't leave the ocean. It's going to get back into the water, isn't it? See, they're desperate to try to find a way to get salt out of the ocean. Getting it in is well understood. How does it get out? By animals eating it? They die and they end up right back in the water. No, that doesn't get it out of the ocean. Stop and think, okay? Hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor release additional dissolved minerals, including more sodium and chloride, further contributing to the briny nature of the sea. National Ocean Service. Why is the ocean salty? Ocean salt primarily comes from rocks on land and openings in the seafloor. Oh yeah, there's salt squirting up into the bottom of the ocean in various places. This is called a brine seep. I mean, liquid salt pouring out. At the base of East Flower Garden Bank at the depth of 240 feet, this is the National Marine Sanctuary in the Gulf of Mexico. It's formed by supersaline water flowing from under the seafloor. Image was taken by the Rove Argus as part of the Secrets of the Gulf expedition in 2007. Rocks on land are the major source of salts dissolved in seawater. Rainwater that falls on land is slightly acidic, so it erodes rocks. This releases ions carried to the streams and get into the ocean. Many of the dissolved ions are used by organisms in the oceans and are removed from the water. Guys, that's not removing it from the ocean. The animal's going to die and stay right there. Stop and think for a minute, okay? Others are not removed, so their concentrations increase over time. Another source of salt is hydrothermal fluids, which come from vents in the ocean floor, hot water vents. We'll show you in a minute. Ocean water seeps into cracks in the seafloor and is heated by magma from the Earth's core. The heat causes a series of chemical reactions. Water tends to lose oxygen, magnesium, and sulfates and pick up metals such as iron, zinc, copper from surrounding rocks. The heated water is released through vents in the seafloor. Some ocean salts come from underwater volcanic eruptions, which directly release minerals into the ocean. Look at that. Undersea eruptions, volcanoes, vents, hydrothermal vents. You can get what's called, coarse sea salt. Okay. You can get sea salt again. Okay. How about Himalayan pink salt? Yeah. That's like the possum, Himalayan in the middle of the road. No, never mind. It's something different. Okay. So here we have to prove to the possum. Look, when you're a possum and you're crossing the road, don't stop and look at the car coming. Okay, never mind. Okay. Scientists first discovered hydrothermal vents in 1977 while exploring an oceanic spreading ridge near the Galapagos Islands. To their amazement, scientists found The hydrothermal vents were surrounded by large numbers of organisms that had never been seen before. This biological community depended upon chemical processes that result from seawater and hot magma. Okay, let's see. The cold seawater is heated by magma and emerges to form the vents. Seawater in hydrothermal vents may be 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't drink it, okay? Hot seawater in hydrothermal vents does not boil because of the extreme pressure. Interesting, okay? Do volcanoes occur in the ocean floor? The greatest number of Earth's volcanoes occur on the ocean floor. Volcanoes, look at this. Let's see. This is because Earth's crust is broken into a series of slabs known as tectonic plates. I agree. The Earth is all busted up. I think that happened at the time of the flood when the fountains of the deep broke open. My humble opinion. These plates are rigid, but they float on a hot, soft layer of Earth's interior. As the plates move, they spread apart, collide, or slide past each other. Slip fault, strike fault, etc. 60% of all active volcanoes occur on the boundaries between tectonic plates. I agree. There's a place called the Ring of Fire that circles the Pacific Ocean. Although most of the active volcanoes we see on land are where the plates collide, they're on land, the greatest number of Earth's volcanoes are hidden from view on the ocean floor. So this is called the Ring of Fire. Most of the volcanoes and earthquakes are right there. That's why California is always having earthquakes and volcanoes. Who cares? Okay. According to various sources, there are more than 1 million submarine, it means underwater, volcanoes. Estimated 40 to 55,000 seamounts. Some of these volcanoes may rise over half a mile above the ocean floor. There are 1,350 potentially active volcanoes. 500 of them have erupted in historical time. Many of these are located along the Pacific Rim in what's known as the Ring of Fire. 5,000 active underwater volcanoes account for 75% of the total lava that erupts every year. Okay. Underwater volcanoes. You can just Google that. There's one blowing up right there underwater. There's also a thing called a salt dome. All over East Texas, when I lived in Longview and taught earth science, I loved to talk to the guys that drill oil wells just to pick their brain on what do you guys find down there? It's amazing. They drill down, they look for the salt domes. They're all over East Texas. They're all over the world, but a bunch of them in East Texas. Because right next to them is almost always oil. That's what they want to get. Geology.com. Let's see. What is a salt dome? Columns of salt that intrude through the overlying sediment units. That's at the border of Oklahoma and Texas, right there. Right? How large are salt domes? Salt domes can be very large structures. Salt cores range from 1/2 mile to 5 miles across. That's a lot of salt. I mean, just pure salt, 5 miles. The parent rock units that serve as a source of salt are usually several hundred to a few thousand feet thick. The salt domes ascend from depths between 500 and 6,000 feet or more below the surface. They usually do not reach the surface. If they do, a salt glacier might form. Cool. Here's salt. Let's see. Salt glaciers. Landsat image of 2 salt glaciers that formed when salt domes erupted from the flanks of the Zagros Mountains in Iran. Just Google salt glacier. The salt glacier on the left is flowing south. The one on the right is flowing north. Each glacier is 4 miles long. That's a lot of salt. Landsat, 2 salt glaciers in the Iran. I just read this. My next slide had the larger font. I wouldn't have to hurt my eyes trying to, never mind. Okay, let's see. The average ocean salinity is 35 parts per thousand, which amounts to 3.4 to 3.6% salt. It varies a little bit depending how fast things evaporate. But right around 3.5 is close enough. The salinity of the ocean also changes a little bit with the depth. It's going to be a little saltier at the top because that's where the water's evaporating from, the top. Okay, duh. Total amount of dissolved salts in seawater. Let's see. They range from 0 near the river mouth to 40% in the Dead Sea. 40% salt. Wow. Globally, seawater salinity remains constant. I don't think I can agree with that. Okay. They're always mining salt in some of these countries to sell it. Morton Sea Salt Company, Morton Salt Company is a big place in Utah. They shovel up the salt, haul it off, and sell it in bags. It's a big industry. In contrast to ocean water, the average salinity of the world's rivers is low, only 0.012%. Remember, the oceans are 3.6%. So the rivers have a little salt. 1 cubic mile of seawater, estimated to have 120 million tons. Let's see. This means that roughly 38.5 quadrillion tons of salt in the oceans. And keep in mind, all of it fit in a dot smaller than a period, smaller than a proton. That was a crowded dot. I'm talking real crowded. Yeah, okay. 97% of the water in the earth is found in the ocean. According to NOAA's National Geophysical Data Center, 321 million cubic miles of water in the ocean. In 1 cubic mile, there's 120 million tons. This means there are 38.5 quadrillion tons of salt in the ocean. Okay. The Big Bang Theory says everything began as a single point. All that salt, including all the water, including all the fat folks, were all in that one dot. Okay? Here's that Big Bang. 38, let's see, million, billion, quadrillion tons of salt, plus all the water in the oceans, plus all the mountains, plus all the fat college professors were squeezed into that one tiny dot. All you fat college professors, do you remember, did that hurt? The Bible says all the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea's not full. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. How much salt is added to the ocean every year? Throughout the world, rivers carry an estimated 4 billion tons of salt to the ocean. That's just the rivers. Keep in mind, it's coming from underneath also. 85% of the ocean's salt comes from rocks on land and openings in the seafloor. So the oceans gain salt from rivers bringing it in, okay? Undersea hot springs, underwater volcanoes, salt domes leaching into the water, and salt glaciers, and salt, what's called a salt seep. How do the oceans lose salt? Well, let's see. The question was, how do the oceans lose salt? For the most part, it isn't. The salinity of the oceans has been very gradually increasing over billions of years as the more salt has been released from within the earth and washed into the oceans. There's an exception when the ocean recedes, leaving isolated salt lakes that then evaporate, leaving salt deposits. Guys, you didn't answer the question, how does the salt get out of the ocean water? The evaporation takes just the water out, called a distillation process. Let's see. How is salt naturally removed from the oceans? Can salt be removed through a natural process? It says salt can be removed over geological time, over millions of years. Oh, really, Michael? How does this do it? This is how brine pools are formed. Wait. If a bunch of water gets separated into a separate pool, then evaporates and leaves the salt behind. Okay, the salt is still here. It didn't leave the planet, that's for sure. And are formed when formerly shallow oceans dry out, when they are cut off from the main bodies and reform again. Okay. The answer is simple. How do you remove salt from seawater? Simple. Evaporation. No, that removes the water. Who did this? WikiHow. Evaporation does not remove the salt. When you cause seawater to evaporate, either naturally or with artificial heat, only the water forms water vapor. The salt is left behind. With this knowledge, it's very easy to separate salt from water with the sort of ordinary materials you might have at home. I agree. You're not answering the question, how do you get the salt from the seawater? You're still leaving it in the seawater. You're removing the water. Evaporation of ocean water and formation of sea ice both increase the salinity of the ocean. Okay, wait a minute. When the ocean water evaporates, the water left behind gets more salty. And when the sea ice increases, I agree, because only the water freezes, not the ice, not the salt. However, these salinity-raising factors are continually counterbalanced by processes that decrease salinity. Watch this now. Such as the continuous input of fresh water from rivers. Does that decrease the saltiness? It doesn't take the salt out. It might dilute it some. They're not answering the question, NASA. You're not answering the question. How do you get the salt out of the water? Not the water out of the oceans, the salt. How do you get it out? You add more water from rivers, that doesn't get the salt out. Precipitation from rain and snow and melting ice, that doesn't get the salt out. Where did you go to school? Diluting the salt water with more water does not remove the salt. How can they not get this? Arguing with idiots, Glenn Beck. Okay, let's see. How is salt naturally removed from the oceans? Salt is naturally removed from the oceans through a process called evaporation. Sage, stop and think do you ever think about what you think about? Look at that. That removes the water. Does anybody else see what I'm talking about? What is sage? As the sun heats the surface of the ocean, water evaporates into the atmosphere as vapor. The question is, how is salt naturally removed from the ocean? Sage, you're not answering the question. You're evading it. As the vapor rises, it cools and condenses into clouds. Eventually, the water falls back to the earth as precipitation and ends up in rivers, lakes, and other bodies. However, the salt that was dissolved in the ocean is left behind, and remaining water becomes more saline over time. I agree. The process is called salinization. I agree. Additionally, some of the salt that is dissolved in ocean water can be removed. What do you mean additionally? The first one doesn't remove it. Additionally. Let's see. This is probably a peer-reviewed article too. Let's see. Through a process called sedimentation. Oh, so if the salt settles to the bottom, where the salt precipitates out of the water and settles to the bottom. So that removes it? It's still in the ocean, guys. It's still there. Salt is naturally removed from the oceans through a process called evaporation. Let's see, Dave, for the most part, it isn't. The salinity of the oceans has been gradually increasing for billions of years. I think more like a few thousand years, okay? There's an exception when the ocean recedes, leaving isolated salt lakes that then evaporate, leaving salt deposits. So I believe the flood was freshwater, and the oceans have slowly gotten saltier ever since. Many animals have had to adapt to the change in salinity. Some fish species live in both freshwater and saltwater. Most fish can only survive in one or the other based on their salinity tolerance, or how much salt their bodies can handle. Let's see. The dilemma many animals of living in saltwater face has been well studied. These animals have adapted many ways of dealing with the body having too much salt. They have to get rid of it, either through their kidneys, some through their eyes. It's great, some through their nostrils. Okay, it's not a problem. Some animals have adapted to salt water. If the whole world was freshwater at Noah's flood, it's gradually getting saltier from known processes. Some animals adapted to it. Some take it out through their gills. Some excrete it in their urine. Some get salt through their these birds have a salt gland in their forehead that makes salt come out the side of their nostril. Why can some birds drink salty seawater? Well, marine birds possess salt-secreting nasal glands that produce hypertonic solutions of sodium chloride. You can read all about it. Look at this. The evolution of a salt gland early in reptiles and birds allowed them to eat aquatic plants and animals with high salt concentrations. You got to give glory to evolution or it doesn't get published in peer-reviewed journals. The salt gland is an organ for excreting excess salts. It's found in cartilaginous fishes, sharks, stingrays, etc., some birds, seabirds, etc. Salt glands maintain salt balance and allow marine reptiles to drink seawater. I agree, it's pretty cool. They can drink the seawater, filter out the salt, put it out through their nostrils or through their urine. You wouldn't do that, okay? You'd probably die. Actually, you would. Let's see. The salt gland. Sea turtles excrete salt through tear ducts. Crying is visible when they're out of the water. Sea turtle comes out on land, it looks like he's crying. He's getting rid of salt. Saltwater crocodiles cry crocodile tears, and butterflies and bees and hummingbirds and other things comes to drink the salt out of their eye. Butterflies and bees drink crocodile tears. Crocodile tears is, the expression for you're faking it, right? There are a few unusual ways animals remove salt from their body. Many penguins have sub or super means above orbital, the eye, gland above their eyes. It removes sodium chlorine from their bloodstream, allows them to drink salt water and pass the salt out through its bill. How do animals get salt? Not all animals have the same dietary needs, but all of them need salt. Herbivores have it harder. That's why they gather whenever they find a salt lick. Put a block of salt out, they love it. They want to go get some salt, okay? It's a very good idea to let them get salt. Sometimes they get so desperate for salt, they kill other animals, including humans, and consume the urine to get the salt. Let's see, today there are freshwater sharks, crabs, jellyfish, shrimp, seahorses, pufferfish, and there are saltwater of each of these. Sharks, freshwater sharks, There are saltwater sharks, and there are freshwater sharks. Who'd have thunk it? Now hold it. A freshwater shark becoming a saltwater shark by adapting to slow salt increase in 4,400 years does not prove sharks are related to ladybugs and they all come from an amoeba like this stupid family tree shows. They'll show freshwater and saltwater sharks and say, see, they're related to ladybugs. You're an idiot. There are freshwater crabs. Look at that. Let's see. Saltwater dolphins. Who'd have thunk it? And look at that. The Amazon River dolphin, known as the pink dolphin, only lives in fresh water. So there are saltwater clams. And let's see. Oh, freshwater clams. Wow. Looks like one of them had to adapt to salt water. I would agree with that. Saltwater oysters and freshwater oysters. Who would have thunk it? Let's see. Saltwater pufferfish. And guess what? There are freshwater pufferfish. They might have had a common ancestor called a pufferfish. Freshwater fish becoming saltwater fish by adapting to slow salt increase does not prove fish are related to pine trees and they all came from an amoeba. Would you guys, just in the sake of honesty, even if you believe in evolution, get these stupid charts out of the book. This isn't science. This is a bunch of propaganda with lines on paper with a bunch of images. There is no evidence for any of this. None. Let's see, we have saltwater stingrays. Did you know there are freshwater stingrays? Guess where they live? Freshwater, yeah. Saltwater shrimp. Oh, look at this. Freshwater shrimp. Now, a freshwater shrimp becoming a saltwater shrimp by adapting to slow salt increase does not prove shrimp are related to birds, and they all come from an amoeba, like this stupid textbook shows to the kids. There are saltwater crabs and freshwater crabs. My fourth grade teacher was a crab. Let's see, no, I'm never, sorry. The freshwater crab becoming saltwater crab does not prove that crabs are related to humans and they came from an amoeba. This is propaganda, folks. This isn't science. There are saltwater starfish and freshwater starfish. Wow. So you're going from a freshwater starfish to a saltwater starfish does not prove starfish are related to zebras. Is this textbook showing the kids the starfish and the zebra are related to a common ancestor? I'm not reading it wrong, am I? Did I get it right? Is that what they're trying to teach? That's exactly what they're trying to. It's called propaganda. It's not science. Let's see. Saltwater jellyfish. Guess what? Freshwater jellyfish. Wow. Now, a freshwater jellyfish becoming a saltwater jellyfish by adapting does not mean the jellyfish are related to turtles. Guys, get this junk out of the book. If you don't have evidence for your theory, I understand. Get some evidence, gather all you want. But meanwhile, quit lying to the kids. God said they would bring forth after their kind, after their kind, after their kind. That's all that's ever happened in the history of the world. Crabs make baby crabs. Sharks make baby sharks. Humans make baby humans. There are no exceptions, none. You can believe whatever you want. But 24 times in the first 7 chapters, it tells us, they bring forth after their kind. That's all, or every sort. Let's see, saltwater catfish. Did you know that, Billy? There are saltwater, and guess what? There are freshwater catfish. They might have had a common ancestor. Anybody want to guess? Catfish, okay. Saltwater snakes and freshwater snakes. Let's see. Saltwater frogs. And guess what? There's freshwater frogs. How about this? Saltwater sea plants. There are some plants that can only live in salt water. And there are some plants that can't live in salt water. They got to have fresh water. There are 24 varieties of crocodiles in the world. Some live in fresh water. Some have adapted to salt water. They probably had a common ancestor called a crocodile. Here's a freshwater crocodile. These are saltwater crocodiles. Changing from a freshwater crocodile to a saltwater croc is minor change compared to what you evolutionists believe. You teach they changed from a rock to a croc, don't you? Slowly, of course, over many, many millions of years. Slowly. That's the secret. Add more time. Get my pacifier out here. You people say, we don't believe crocodiles came from a rock. Yes, you do. Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago as a hot ball of rock. Then it rained on the rocks. Primordial soup was formed 4 billion years ago from raining on the hot rocks. And in that primordial soup, life got started. Is this what the textbooks teach? Am I reading it right? So you get mad at me because I'm embarrassing your stupidity for believing something like this. Where did life begin? Wow. At high temperatures, these gases formed single organic molecules. When Earth cooled and water vapor condensed, these simple molecule organic compounds would have collected in lakes and oceans. So the Earth was a hot ball of rock. It rained on the rocks for millions of years, gathered together into puddles, into soup, and soup came alive. You do believe a rock turned to a croc, slowly, over millions of years, okay? Years ago, I met with David Clifton up in Oak Grove, Alabama. I don't know if he still lives up there. David, if you do, give me a call. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. He had aquariums. He had saltwater and freshwater aquariums. He said he took his black mollies, freshwater fish, and slowly added sea salt, a little bit of salt every day, and in just 2 weeks, they adapted to the salt water. When he put them back in fresh water, they died within 30 minutes. Can animals adapt to salt water? Yeah. But now listen, the oceans are gaining salt every day. Some animals have adapted to it. Quite a few have. So the oceans today are 3.6% salt. They could have done all that in less than 5,000 years. So my simple question is, why aren't the oceans saltier? They don't know of a good way to get salt out. You get the water out. How do you get the salt out? It's constantly increasing in salinity. 6,000 years ago, God made everything. And 4,400 years ago, there was a flood. And since that flood, oceans have slowly gotten saltier. Some animals have adapted, some have not. I've heard stories. They teach the Marines, is what I've heard. If you get lost at sea, start drinking a little bit of seawater right away. Because if you wait till you're thirsty and then you pig out on it, you'll kill you. But there have been people who claim they've survived. I should have looked up stories about that. By slowly drinking salt water right away when you get stuck in the raft in the ocean. Maybe somebody can Google that and find out, is that true? How salty is the Dead Sea? The Dead Sea is 34%. The Great Salt Lake in Utah varies between 5 and 27%. Oceans are only 3%. So the Dead Sea is 10 times saltier than the ocean. Which sea has the highest salinity? Lake Van in Turkey. Wow, that's pretty salty, okay? It gets so much the salt just dries out on the beach. All this yellow area, this is in Idaho, all that yellow area drains into Salt Lake. And there's no outlet, so it evaporates, leaving that little blue lake behind. In 4,400 years, it would easily gain loads of salt. It's trapped. That lake has no exit. The Bible talks about the Salt Sea. Now, this is in the book of Joshua. By the time of Joshua, the Dead Sea was already dead. They called it the Salt Sea all through the Bible. See, Joshua worked with Moses about 1,000 years after the flood, and the Dead Sea had already gathered enough salt to be known as the Salt Sea. 1,000 years, no problem. All the rain runs into that spot, evaporates out, keeps running in, evaporating out. Pretty soon it builds up salt. I doubt the Salt Sea was as salty as it is today. I bet it's still getting saltier. What do you think? Here's the Dead Sea in Israel. All this water, the yellow area, drains into the Dead Sea. It is so salty, Salt Lake and the Dead Sea are so salty, you can float. I did that when I went out there as a kid. Grab a book, go out there and sit on the water. The water is so heavy, it pushes you up, buoyancy. At the bottom of the Dead Sea in Israel, they pump the water out into big flat areas and let it dry and scrape the salt up and mine the salt. Sea salt, Himalayan salt. You can order Dead Sea salt online. Let's see. Dead Sea soak salt. You can, or listen carefully. The salt in the oceans today, 3.6%, indicates the ocean is not billions of years old. You have never given a good way for the salt to get out of the ocean. There's all kinds of ways to get the water out. We know what's bringing the salt in. Several different sources are bringing it in. Atheists, I know you would like to have billions of years to turn your frog to a prince. I know you need time. I know. And if that doesn't work, you need more time. I know. How can you explain the fact that the oceans are only 3.6% salt? The Dead Sea is 10 times saltier than that. If the oceans were billions of years old, they'd be real salty by now. It's a distillation process going on constantly. The earth is not billions of years old. God made the whole world in 6 days, about 6,000 years ago. Okay, any questions or comments? Did Crybaby comment in? Comment, Crybaby. Hey, I love that name. Perfect for you, okay? I can't hear you, but you got a lot of comments here? Okay. There he is. Austin and Humphreys greatly underestimate the amount of sodium lost. Leave it up for a minute. Okay. They omit sodium lost in the formation of diatomaceous earth. They omit numerous other mechanisms which are minor individually, but collectively account for a significant fraction. Okay, Crybaby, give me some real numbers on that. If the salt is being collected into diatomaceous earth, it's still in the ocean. Just like settling to the bottom, it's not gone. It's still there and can quickly redissolve into the water. So you're not getting rid of it. Go ahead. What's the next one? Yesterday's interview was top shelf. What'd you put it up there for? I don't care. Okay. Thank you. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. Send your questions, comments. We love it here. Tomorrow night, Whack an Atheist. If you got a particular atheist that needs whacked, send me some comments. I'd like to know. How do they get comments to you, brother? tech@drdino.com. Because typically I've already picked an atheist to whack. I don't have one for tomorrow night yet. Anybody got a favorite you'd like me to whack? Think about it. Let me know. I think it's ice cream party time for the birthday girl, right? Looks like my wife just drove back. Praise God, we got to go by. See you later. All right.